Welcome back to our web development series. Today we are diving into one of the most powerful tools in web design, that is CSS or cascading style sheet. Okay. So these are the topics we are going to learn in a CSS: CSS types, selectors, color, font, text, box model, flexbox, and CSS pseudocode, audio, CSS list, tables, forms, and CSS animation. So these are all the things we are learning in this complete CSS web development. Okay. So CSS means cascading style sheet. Okay. So if HTML is a skeleton of a web page, then CSS is the clothing and makeup that makes it look beautiful, right? So for this one, we will see one example. So before going to that, CSS describes how HTML elements are displayed on the screen, paper, or any other media. Okay, so CSS is used to define styles for your web pages, including design, layout, variations in display for different devices with a different sizes. Okay, so just I had said one example. So HTML is a skeleton of a web page. Okay, then if we add it a CSS to that HTML page, so it is like a clothing or makeup for that HTML page. Then it looks beautiful. So you can see in this example, first is the skeleton of HTML home example. You can see after that when we are adding some clothing for that home, it looks beautiful, right? So in the same way, web pages also we are creating with HTML skeleton. So after we are adding CSS, it looks beautiful. Okay, so for that reason, we have to learn CSS. Let's start with a basic and work of CSS. So understanding CSS, selectors first, then you will understand everything in CSS. Okay, so let us start with there is an element. Okay, so there is an element, you can select it from the HTML. Okay, so for this element we are going to style, we are using in a this format. Okay, so here it is a selector, this is a declaration, what we are giving a styling. So this first color we call it as a property, and blue is a value for that property, that we call it as a value. Okay, so cascading style sheet is used to style HTML elements. So here we are styling this paragraph element. Okay, so for this one we can change the color, size, layout, everything with a CSS property and value. Okay, so here first we have choosing the HTML element, that is the selector. So next we are adding property for the selectors. So what you want to change. So next the value for that property we are adding it to change the styling. So these are all the main important things we are doing with the HTML element. So when we are applying styling, right? Here you can see the example. So here P is our selector. So it is targeting as a paragraph in HTML. So for this paragraph, we are going to add a CSS with a color and font size. So color is a property and blue is the value. So here font size is 12. 12 is the value of this font size property, right? Like this, we are going to add a styling for the particular elements of HTML. Okay, so let us understand types of CSS we are using. There are three ways of CSS we are using with the HTML. Okay, so the three ways are, first one is inline CSS. Okay, inline CSS contains the CSS property in the body section attached to the element is known as inline CSS. Means we are using this inline CSS with the HTML element. Okay, so this property we are usually adding the body section of the element. Okay, so next one is internal or embedded CSS. The CSS is embedded within the style tag inside head section of the HTML. Okay, so this is internal. So internal means this we are adding in a head section. So with a style tag we are adding the styling part. Okay, I will show you in an example, so then you will understand better. Okay, so next third one is the external CSS. External CSS is a property is written in a separate file with a .css extension, and it should be linked to the HTML document using link tag. Okay, so we'll see one by one with the examples. Okay, so inline internal CSS is having the first priority. So here you should remember always, if we are giving an inline and internal CSS, it is the first priority. If we give some other property in the external CSS, same property we give it differently in external CSS, it will not consider. So whatever we have given in the inline, so it is giving the first priority for inline and internal. Okay. So let us see what is inline and how to write the syntax and all we will learn here. Okay. So now you can see here, this is adding directly to the HTML element. Okay, using style attribute. So here you can see the example. P means paragraph, you know, it is the element of HTML. So inside paragraph element body, we are writing the style tag. Style is equal to color blue, font size is 60. So this is a inline styling paragraph, right? So this is it's a quick to apply. Okay, so the main advantage of this inline CSS is quick to apply. So now easy, you can add it in easily with that element. Okay, so it's hard to maintain for larger projects. Okay, so it's very difficult to add larger projects because we are having lot of code. So every line we could not able to add like this. Okay, so for that reason, so it is suitable only for simple single line element. Okay, so next, let us move on to the internal CSS. So in internal CSS, this we are writing within a style tag inside the head section of the HTML document. Okay, so the syntax will look like this. You can see style tag inside style tag we are writing the property name, and with a curly braces we are writing the properties like this: color colon green, font size colon 18, and closing this element and style. So this we always write it in the edge section of the HTML. You should remember, always we are maintaining internal CSS inside the edge section. So because if you can use body, but it will not support properly. Okay, so at the simple projects it will work, but if we are using in a complex projects, it will not work properly. Okay, so for that reason we are always mentioned in the edge section. What internal CSS, right? So internal CSS we always mentioned in the edge section. So this thing you should remember. Okay, so next one is the sorry, before going to that, we have to understand the pros and cons of this internal CSS. Useful for applying styles to single HTML page. So it is very helpful when you are using a single HTML page. But so if we are using multiple HTML pages, so it's difficult to maintain. Okay, so for that time we are going for the external CSS. Okay, so this is written in a separate file with a .css file and linked to your HTML using link tag. Okay, so this is the most professional approach. So as it enables reusability and keeps your code organized. So you can see here example. So link relation, rel means relation, is equal to style sheet href. So href you already used in the HTML. So href means hyperlink reference we are using. So this is containing the link of that file name. So style.css, or you can give any other name. That name you should write here, file name, that is CSS file. So in the separate CSS file we are going to write the styling for a particular HTML page. So this is helpful when you are using a that same styling with a multiple pages. So that time it is very helpful. So for that one, we can reuse the same styling. Okay, so the pros of this external CSS is enable reusability and separation of concern. So you can maintain separate, now you can see index.html and about and contact page. So those are all separate pages, right? So or else your home page. So every page is separate, means separate concerns we can maintain the styling. Okay, so next cons. Well, everything is having pros and cons, but the cons of the external CSS is it requires additional file management. So we need extra separate file, right? So that is not much. But if we need extra simple, if we are writing a simple HTML code, no need of extra file. So you can use the inline CSS. So depends on your requirements, you are going to choose this inline, internal and external CSS. So let us see with the examples all these three types. Okay, let us create a separate folder for CSS. I created separate folder. Inside that CSS HTML file. For HTML page, we are applying CSS. So for that reason, we have to create HTML file. Okay, this is on HTML.html. File is created. Once the file created, file write basic boilerplate code. Now, now I am going to use H1. So inside H1, I am going to write styling. So Take it as the same example. Paragraph, right? Just I'm writing one paragraph. So in paragraph, I'm writing. So this is same inline. Okay. I'm writing inline CSS. Inline CSS is text. Just run this one. How it will. Okay, let us consider this inline CSS is the HTML paragraph. Okay, so let us see how output will come now. The output will come like this. Inline CSS is plain. So now I am going to use inline CSS. Inline CSS we are using with the element body. Okay, so how to use? So using style tag. Style is equal to color. Just I'll give a blue color. Any color name. Now just you can see inline CSS the blue color, right? So like this, we are going to add a inline CSS for a particular HTML element. Okay. Now this is an inline CSS. So now let us take one more paragraph. Here I'm X. This extra I'll take with a not paragraph. I take H2 element. This H2 element I write it as internal. Now we'll apply internal CSS. How to apply internal CSS? Right head section. I have to write it in a style tag, right? So inside this style tag with the element which we are adding the styling. So this one I'm going to the flower bracket. Inside flower bracket I'm going to write the color of the H2 okay, element. Brown color. Semicolon we need to add at the end of the statement color colon brown. Okay. Just refresh internal CSS with a brown color. Okay, so this is internal CSS. Inline CSS means we are adding the styling with a particular element body. Okay, element body only we are adding with a style tag. Okay, so internal CSS means what? We are adding a style tag within the head section of the HTML and with the element we are adding with the color, font or any attributes, any styles we are going to give inside this element. Okay, with the curly brace. Now you understood what is inline CSS, internal CSS. Okay, let us move on to what is external. External CSS. So we are creating separate file, right? So just I'll take a H3 for this H3 CSS. So this is external CSS word style print. Now we are getting external CSS the external H3. Okay, so we are adding styling to this external CSS element. We are creating a new file. Okay, inside the CSS file, I'm going to create a file style.css. The file here, no need of style tag. Directly you can write H3. Inside H3, you are going to write your style. Okay, just here also I'm using color colon. Take this address, the green color, family family. Now I'll refresh this one, nothing will apply. Why it is not applied? Because we did not access the HTML file. In HTML file, we have to add link tag, right? Inside head section, that link relation is equal to sheet, style sheet, and next is href. Href means hyperlink reference. So here we are going to add the style sheet file name is style.css. That's it. Just close the tag. I'll refresh this one. Now it is applied to external CSS, right? So in style.css, we'll add one more property, that is body. Complete body, I'll apply background color. So this background color is some antique white color. Okay, we will see output come. So that again we come back to HTML file, then refresh the page. We'll get the background color for the body, right? So like this, you are going to apply inline CSS, internal CSS, and external, right? So practice with your own examples and try these three types of styling. You will get better understanding. Okay, once you practice, it will be clear to you. I think you have understood all these three types of CSS, right? Practice more, learn more. Happy coding. We'll meet you in the next class.